it's creating strong karmic seeds that then will result in your next rebirth. This is why it's the next line there. When all factors are complete, it becomes what is called throwing karma. Throwing. Yeah. It throws you into your next rebirth. When it's negative, when the seed is negative, either as a hell being, as a hungry ghost, or as an animal. If it's positive, the throwing karma is positive, either human, an asura or asura. It's like some more subtler states than humans, and they have more capacities than us.
I'm sorry, can you repeat? What is throwing karma?
Throwing karma gives what is called the ripening result. It results in creating your next body. So that we all have the collective karma, positive karma, to have a human body. That's positive, a ripening of a positive imprint. Something that has been done, like ethical conduct, like as we said yesterday. The cause for a human body is ethical conduct. So, in Buddhist terms, abstaining from killing, stealing, and so on, we go through the list, is already positive. If you abstain from it consciously, like if there's no mosquito nowhere, I do not create the positive karma of not killing. But if a mosquito comes, and I go, no, I don't want to kill it, then while I have that thought, it creates the seed. Okay? Then completing karma, this is like the weaker actions, or actions when not all four factors were present. Again, are you clear about the four factors? Everybody. Intention, object, action, completion. So when these four are present, that creates the seeds that determine your next rebirth. Rebirths, not just one. Yeah? And what happens in that rebirth, you can be reborn as an animal, as a pet dog. It is called a so-called good life. I don't know if it's really such a good life. It's pretty boring. You're totally dependent on your master, whether he or she takes you out, what they feed you, whether they give you attention or not, whether they leave you alone at home the whole day, because I want to have a dog, but I need to go to work. Dogs usually don't like it so much to be alone at home. They're company creatures.
There is a TV channel.
Yeah.
About dogs. What?
4 dogs.
4 dogs.
Not about
Not
4
about
dogs.
4.
Like for
Dogs
the kids.
babysitting.
Yeah, exactly. Really nice music.
So anyway, but again, if you want to have a dog, there can be very good intentions of having a dog. Like for example, you can recite mantras to the dog, you can read prayers to the dog, or this is the foundation of all good qualities. Read it to your dog again and again and again and again. When the dog is dying, you do all the things that you would do with a human being also, all these rituals to help the mind to go to good rebirth. Then it's good to have a dog, because you help him getting out of his animal rebirth. So when you are a pet dog, this is, and you're fed and you have no problems of surviving on this is what is called completing karma. And this completing karma changes. Like the throwing karma only changes when you're dead, because the body that you have it. I cannot say, okay, now I've become a dog. I can start to kind of go, wow, wow, wow. But I'm still a human, okay, or walk on my 4 legs. I can start to bark, but it's like, did you notice? It like bark is such a common word. I couldn't remember I had to look for the word. This is starting now with language. I have to look for the words. They still come, luckily, but I had to give you the definition of barking, and then behind it came the word barking. Woof! If I start to talk nonsense, then please say something, because I might not notice. This is what happens when the brain goes. So the completing karma is what happens in your life. So you have happy moments, you have unhappy moments, you have things go well, you have things that don't go well. This is what is called completing karma. The other one is the throwing karma. Is that clear? Yeah? Yeah. Or not?
Not really.
Anyway, it's, you know, in the discussion groups you do have experienced people around you. So make sure that you older students, you're not all in one group, that you are a little bit helping them when they don't understand what this all means. Because in the discussion group you will discuss karma. Kind of what would happen if I would start to adapt this as a law of cause and effect, something like that. Does karma make sense? Does the law of cause and effect make sense? And how would the belief in it influence my life?
What was the first seed to create? I mean, it must be the first seed.
Why? Why must there be a first seed?
I don't know.
If you look in the world, you think there is a first seed of flowers? Like first seed means nothing,
Yeah,
then a seed.
I'm trying to understand the concept of.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to understand the concept of first seed because I don't understand that concept. For me, it's not logic. You have nothing and then you have something. For me, that's not possible. Now they say the mind has not been created, so that's why the mind is beginningless. There is no first moment.
so there's
Only transformation.
Okay, it's hard to digest the idea.
But look at your idea of first seed. That is even harder to digest.
We
Both
grew
are-
up. We
both
grew.
are
We
possible.
grew up on this idea.
We grew up with that idea, but it's not logic.
Then you have God.
Huh?
God created.
God the creator. But who
something that
created
is
the
external.
creator? Who created the creator?
I mean,
Is he not beginningless? Is God beginningless or does he have a beginning? Anyway, I'm not going to go
It's
with
the same. It's just the same.
It's the
So
same.
God is beginningless, and then He created the mind.
yes, that's the idea. That's the
But it's
concept.
the same thing.
In
But how can
Judaism.
somebody create something out of nothing?
It's not out of
How?
nothing because there was God.
Huh?
There was something.
There was something.
Okay. Okay, so then. You know, I could never deal with that concept of God because I thought, why is God allowing this mess? Why is He creating something that creates such a mess?
Exactly.
And He's just leaving us alone, let them figure it out themselves. And He sees we're totally lost in that mess. So this is why I was never so happy. So then I was happy to hear there's no creator. But I'm not saying there's no creator God, I don't know. But it's just, for me, it's just a view. Some people believe in a God, some others don't. It creates views, opinions, it has some influence. And if the influence is helpful, great. If it's not helpful, I mean, at the moment, this influence of creator God, I think it's really not helpful. This is what the Dalai Lama usually says. He says, these religions, Christians and Jews and Muslims who fight with each other, they have the same God. And they ask God, please go and destroy the Israelis or the Muslims or the Christians or whatever. Then he says, poor God, this is his 3 children. How can he destroy one of them? And he also says, look, the problems that we have created on this planet, try to solve them yourself. Don't ask God. He didn't create these problems. But this one is like, you know, one God. And then they start killing each other. And asking God for help. It's so ridiculous. Sorry. That goes public. I might be banned from this country.
We will edit it afterward.
I don't mind if they want to ban me, then ban me.
We might.
It's okay. Okay, then we have the 10 non-virtuous actions. So these are very easy to understand. So we don't need to make them more complicated. What we start with, because ethical conduct is at the bottom or the base of your spiritual practice, we just start to abstain from them as much as we can. Very simple. Nobody is asking you to solve very complicated problems like the situation in the Middle East. But whenever you come into a situation where you could kill, then you say, no, I'm not going to kill. Especially when it's not necessary, especially if it's like, you know, insects and mosquitoes and things like that. So the first one is killing. That is the heaviest one. Why? Why is killing the heaviest negative action?
Because you end the potential of someone else.
Yeah, that would be a very high philosophical Buddhist answer. Especially if it's a tantric practitioner. No, because we are also, that's what we are most attached to.
We don't want to die.
It's our life. So taking it away from somebody else, that's the worst big action, the biggest action that you can do. Take away their possessions. Not such a bit, it's not good, but still it's not such a good thing. That's the second one. Stealing.
But if you do
Unless
this
Wait
act
with
in
the ifs.
Right.
Wait with the
defense or
wait
Or
with
to
the
let
if.
somebody who is very sick.
Look, if I say shh, I mean
I'm
shh.
sorry.
Okay? You can discuss it later. Yeah. So stop with the ifs because you don't have all the information yet. Once you have it, you can give yourself the answer. You don't need to ask me. This is why I'm going through these points here. Yeah? Okay? Good. There was absolutely no intention to hurt you, but I needed to stop you. Can you see now? When one,
Yeah.
it's not angry, but it's little bit forced, because otherwise he wouldn't have stopped. Stealing, taking what is not given. Sexual misconduct. Meaning, the first one is forcing somebody. Second one is cheating on your partners, not being faithful. That is sexual misconduct. For us in the Western society. Buddhist society goes a bit further, but it's cultural values, okay? Like for example, not to have sex in front of your parents, not to have sex in front of holy objects, these kinds of things. That's what they learn, so it's cultural. For us, well, I don't know, would you have sex in front of your parents? Probably not. Not in front of your children, yeah? Not when the woman is, what is it, when she's menstruating, and when is, like there's, wrong time, wrong object, wrong person, like if your sexual object is too young, it's also sexual misconduct. If you're exploiting their naivete or something like that, it goes into sexual misconduct. Buying sex goes into sexual misconduct, and especially having affairs with others when you are in a relationship. Don't need to be married. Then 4 of speech, so these are 3 of the body. So we don't need to go any further than that for the moment. 4 of speech. Lying, like again simple, not telling the truth. Slander, meaning destroying somebody's good reputation in order for them to be expelled from the group. Not just for the sake of destroying, you're jealous of that person, and so you... Huh? Yeah, well, sometimes it's called divisive speech.
Yeah.
Harsh words. Yeah. Harsh words. Words that hurt. When I say shh, it doesn't hurt. If it hurts you, that's what you make out of it. Yeah, if somebody feels hurt when I say shh, so it's not a harsh word. If it is said, because I know somebody is really weak and the smallest criticism destroys them and I still use it, then it goes into harsh words. Gossip, talking about people when they're not present, or meaningless talk. The 3 of mind. Envy or jealousy, harmful thoughts, like negative rejoicing. I think we already talked about this a little bit. Somebody you dislike, they fail their exam, so that goes into negative rejoicing. Like for example, somebody cheats and they get through with it and you're very happy. I mean, they cheat during the exam and they fail, then you rejoice, then that would be called negative rejoicing. You don't have to be happy or unhappy that they failed, but you don't have, or like, yeah, Osama bin Laden gets killed. Some people, yoo-hoo, you know, in New York in the square, and some other people are screaming and crying. So, and when the other party gets hurt, these people are happy, and these other ones are crying. So this kind of thing. So it's okay to see negative actions, and it's okay to see that you're happy when somebody got stopped from doing these negative actions, but not into, wow, so good, and that he's got killed, and like that. Wrong views. Wrong view is when you are convinced that something exists that, as a matter of fact, does not exist. And when you are convinced that something does not exist, when, as a matter of fact, it does exist. Okay, I can be convinced there's an elephant on this table, because that's what I see. I have a hallucination. And everybody tells me, no, it's not, and I start fighting because of that. Or I can be convinced that there's no watch on this table. Now, again, in Buddhist terms, so Buddhist wrong views, but that's only for Buddhists. You're convinced there's no law of cause and effect, there's no rebirth, there's no qualities of the three jewels. Why is it for a Buddhist wrong views are so detrimental? Because you would have access to these teachings to liberation, and you don't believe in it, so you totally close the door to achieve liberation and enlightenment. Now, if a Christian doesn't believe in rebirth, that's not necessarily wrong view. Okay? Anyway, we leave him alone. These teachings are to be used as mirror, not what others do with them, but what we do with them. Okay. Then I'm going on until 11. Then again, I give you half an hour break, and then we do the meditation on it a little bit, reflecting on it, or we have a discussion, whatever. We'll see how it goes. The 10 virtuous actions are the opposite from above, or abstaining from it. Like, the opposite from killing is not necessarily saving life. The opposite from killing is not killing. Yeah, don't go too far. Of course, saving life creates a lot of positive energy if you save, but what if you save the life of a terrorist? You see, this is what makes this is why we have this balagan on this planet, because there's not one action that is totally pure. There's always a shortcoming somewhere. This is why we have to attain enlightenment, because everything is based on dualism, good and bad. But we learn here first, like in a very gross way, we learn good and bad. Maybe coming back to the 10 actions, why are they negative? Okay. Think that this happens to you. Somebody wants to kill you, somebody steals your possessions, your partner is going off with somebody else, or somebody forces you to have sex. Would you be happy? Okay. Somebody lies to you, somebody slanders you, somebody uses harsh words, and somebody gossips about you. Would that make you happy? No. Somebody is envious, somebody has harmful thoughts, and somebody has wrong views about you. Would that make you happy? No. Would we see when it's coming this way that all these actions are negative? Yeah. So this is how negative karma gets created, because our subtle mind knows. You can call it consciousness. Because it knows whatever harms me, when I do it to somebody else, it also harms others. And this is how the negative imprint gets created. So the subtle mind creates its own punishment. It's as simple as that. There's no Buddha, no God giving you these imprints so that you will suffer in the future so you can learn something. And it's also not, unfortunately, it doesn't come with the factor of you will be punished, so therefore you will learn something. Unfortunately, it's not like that. The same way as a white flower doesn't learn to be a red flower just because it's a white flower. When we learn about the system and we learn about what it does, then we can stop the suffering. Because we're not feeling like the victim and we're not taking revenge. to your question, what about self-defense? Who started it?
They started it.
Always,
No.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But nobody started it. Because it's karma ripening. This whole thing, victim, aggressor, it just continues. It continues until the victim, when the victim has the power, stops. But as long as the victim, when the victim starts to have power, gives back, the ex-aggressor will feel like the victim. And the victim, unfortunately, thinks that it's justified to take revenge. Isn't it? Victim is like, there's a very nice, there's very nice features that come with being the victim. You're allowed to hit back. And our ego mind, who is quite violent, likes to hit back. So all of a sudden somebody gives you the permission, who says victims are allowed to strike back. But then the question is, how long are you allowed to strike back? Once? Twice? For 1 year? 2 years? 3 years? 60 years? 100 years? 150 years? These are the questions that one will ask oneself. Being the victim. So you see, at the moment we all have the karma to live in a very violent world. So we need to purify that karma, because otherwise the world cannot come to rest. We have neighbor wars in Switzerland. People take each other to court for, like, really, in your eyes, very stupid things. In their eyes, it's very important things, because they have nothing bigger. This whole thing, they started it. There's no end to that. There's no end to that. This is the problem.
Using the water in the toilet after 10. Using the water in the toilet after 10.
For example, not the toilet, I think it's okay. Showering is not okay.
In Belgium it's...
Belgium is the toilet also. I think toilet in Switzerland is still okay. But showering after 10 is like, people can complain.
Why?
Makes noise.
Because it makes noise, you hear it. We had in our house, now the person is gone. She was going, not really court, but there's an association for when you're renting an apartment and they help you. She went there because there's a house order. No, there's an order of the house which is written when you come in. Not this, not this, not this, not this. Not cutting your grass with an electric lawn between 12 and 2, I think, in the afternoon or something. Although nobody goes for a Schlafstunde, but it has to be quiet. You see, they wanted to close our Buddhist center because we don't have the right permit. And one person was able, because he's a lawyer and he's our neighbor, he was able to, we had to go to court because of that. And we are allowed to still hold events, but only 6 Sundays a year. And at 10 o'clock, everybody has to be out, everything has to be quiet. And we're training people to have a peaceful mind. So we stopped being cynical about this person, and we started to make dedications for his happy mind, because it's a very unhappy person who does something like that. He hasn't reacted since, so I don't know if these prayers or whatever, but for us it was very good. It was a very good occasion to train, not to be cynical about the whole thing, because it's very easy to become cynical. You know, like 5 minutes by foot down is the football stadium, where they need 400 policemen every weekend, so that people don't kind of bash each other's heads. For us, who are trying to have people have peaceful minds, only 6 Sundays a year. And then it has to be finished by 4 o'clock. Because we're in a zone where it's not mixed. We're not in a zone where you have shops and people living. It's only residential area. So this is Switzerland, okay? So it's everywhere. Here it's very violent, so it's very apparent. In Switzerland it's mentally very violent. And if I have time this afternoon, I'll tell you the story of another neighbor. We are surrounded by 4 pretty violent neighbors. With one, I think it's okay. The other one, he doesn't let me get close to him, that one with the court case. So I can't make contact with him. But with the other two I made, and two already is peace. But it has to come from my side. Because I also have the tools, and I have to wish that there is peace. I have a real wish that there is peace, because I think life is difficult enough. We don't need to create all these problems on top of it. And this is what I'm trying to convey with a lot of patience and with no aggression whatsoever. By trying to understand their unhappy minds. And then it works. Because then they don't feel threatened. And then they don't need their defense and their anger anymore. So, if I have time this evening or this afternoon to tell you more stories about this. Tools how to deal with difficult neighbors.
Can we purge our own karma?
Wait, I haven't finished yet.
Oh, sorry.
Because that's exactly what comes now. This purification. This is why I'm saying we have to purify this negative karma. So karmic seeds can be destroyed, the positive ones, through anger and negative regret. And the negative ones through, again, 4 factors. So we are aware when there's suffering in your life, we are aware that we have karmic imprints because they ripen and then things happen that we don't necessarily like. So, and when we look at our actions of body, speech and mind every day, we create a lot of negative actions. Yeah? Not really these very gross ones, but for example, wrong view of inherent existence is always there. So even the positive actions that we do, the happiness that they create, it doesn't last. Because they're flawed by the wrong view of a real me doing a real action to a real other. I don't see the connection between these 3. Because without other, there is no me. Yeah? Without other, there is no action. Without action and me and other, there is no karma. Like we don't see how this is totally dependent on each other. So in order to purify negative karma, you need the 4 powers. So the first one is to regret, or to just acknowledge. Acknowledge that we have done negative actions. To take responsibility. The next one is the power of the object. So that would mean we take, as a Buddhist, you take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and you generate bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is a mind who wants to be of benefit to all sentient beings. So the same way as we have a mind, I only want to be of benefit to me and my people, we start to enlarge it. So the attitude wanting to be of benefit we already have. All we have to do is to expand it. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah? So that's the power of the object. Then we need to do an action. We need to do an action that counteracts the negative action. So again, in Buddhist terms, it means you recite mantras, you do this visualization of the light coming into you, what we did this morning. That purifies negative, the hindrances and all that. We do prostrations, we do offerings like water bowls, simple things. But you can also, if that is more meaningful to you, you can also do an action that counteracts what you did. Like for example, you had an abortion, in case, I'm looking at you, I don't know. So, because that's something that sits with women very often for the rest of their lives. And they're not aware of it before they abort. So I would really, if you have sex and you don't want children, please have sex that is not then kind of making children. That doesn't fertilize any eggs. Okay. It's possible to let go, that's true, but I've talked to quite a number of women where it just sits with them, the guilt and the negative feeling for the rest of their lives. So, for example, you have an abortion, you can't get rid of the guilt feeling, so you start to take care of a child that nobody really takes care of, somebody you see in your neighborhood. Or like Tammy did for a while, she is in that orphanage that you take one of the children until they find parents, you take them out, you look after them, you give them a home, like that, yeah, for example, as a counterbalance. Now the problem with these actions is that very quickly you want people to be grateful to you. So this would be the same thing. If we create a negative action, it's like creating a debt. If you have a debt, you need to pay the bill. Now, if you pay the bill and you want the other person to be grateful to you, that would be strange, wouldn't it? Because why do you have a bill? Because the person gave you something, or you took something from that person. So when we do so-called mitzvahs out in society, like being very generous and all this, very quickly we want people to acknowledge it and to be grateful and to say thank you. If we do mantras, prostrations, there's no acknowledgement anywhere. We just do it for the sake of doing something. A remedy, becomes a remedy. And I think the more you do something that you dislike doing, the better it purifies. Because we don't like paying bills. You can also do something if you become aware you've done negative action. You decide to do a positive action, that you decide to do something that you really dislike doing. For example, like buying coffee to that obnoxious person in the office for 1 week. If you become aware that you took things from the office that are not really yours. See, with the stealing, we have to be very careful because, especially office, especially time, you are not being paid to be on the telephone or to write WhatsApp to your friends, is it? So that's stealing time from the person who pays you salary. Or taking paper or pencils or all these kinds of things. If the boss says, whatever you need, please take it home, that's fine. But if you don't have... So stealing is taking that which has not been given. This is why I say, here the soap that you have already opened, if you take that home, that's of course not stealing because it will be thrown away. But if you fill your container, your empty container of shampoo or soap with that soap that is in the shower, that is stealing. If you take the towel home with you, that is stealing. But it only becomes stealing when you are at home and you notice the towel in your bag and you go like, wow, great, now it's mine. Then the action is complete. Because you could have a thought, wow, I didn't want to take that, I'd bring it back next time, then it's not stealing. So you see, it's not only the action. Usually when we hear about the 10 Commandments, we only see the action, we don't see the whole package that goes with it.
There was no intention also.
Yeah, but still, even there was no intention, but you are at home and you say, oh great, now it's mine, because then the intention is there to take it, and then it's stealing. Even at the beginning there was no intention. Do you see how that kind of works? Okay, and at the end, you make a strong determination not to repeat the action. So these are the 4 powers to purify, to nullify the negative imprints that we have, okay?
Can we pure somebody else's karma?
No.
Just us.
Otherwise, we would all be totally pure. Why? Because the Buddhas, the gods, Muhammad, whoever, Jesus, they would have purified our negative karma. Because that is their intention. The Buddha's intention is for beings not to suffer. So if he would be omnipotent, and if we could purify other people's karma, then they would. Now, we still visualize that we do it sometimes, knowing that we can't do it, but we do it in order to strengthen our compassion. That's why we do it. Show our concern. But no, you cannot. The Buddhas are, nobody can wash us of our negative imprints. It is your mind who will have to experience it, the positive ones and the negative ones, and it's your mind who can purify them through these 4 powers. First, a strong regret, then wanting to amend, a wish, wanting to do something about this, doing an action. We need to know what kind of actions are beneficial. So I trust the Buddha, the Buddhist teachings that they say, you do this, it works, I trust. And then a strong determination not to do the whole thing at the end again. Then the best purification is thinking about emptiness. In emptiness, there is no me who creates the karma, there is no action of negative karma, there is no karma. That exists from its own side. That's the best purification. When we start to see, I am in my nightmare and killing everybody, but actually it's just a product of my mind. But as long as we believe that we kill somebody, we create the negative imprint. So if you don't know, you see, karma becomes very heavy if you don't know about emptiness. When you know about emptiness, then you can see how karma works. Only then. That everything can be manipulated. That it is our own mind creating the karma. What lies at the bottom? Ignorance. A wrong view of inherent existence. So this is basically karma. So maybe now we have a half an hour break. And then I think you can ask the questions that you have. You come with these questions, what about if, and then you're trying to figure it out with the information that I gave you. Okay? So we do that instead of the meditation. And the meditation we can kind of integrate it maybe this afternoon.